Welcome to the BI and Analytics chat. We're kicking off 3 great sessions today. We have some really cool stories and some really cool things that people are solving with their data challenges. So yeah, please, interact in the chat. We'll be watching it from our side throughout these sessions. Drop in where you're from, what you do, what you're interested in, and we'd love to see all of that. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the session. We have a really great story here today from Dan Contestable from Advantage Investigations. He's done some really cool things over there as a data analytics manager. I'm going to let Dan introduce himself and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, thank you, Billy, and thank you everyone for joining today. As Billy mentioned, my name is Dan Contestable. I'm the data analytics manager at Advantage Investigations. I've worked for Advantage for about 4 years now. I report directly to our CXOs, and I'm responsible for all the reporting and dashboarding needs for our company. If you're not familiar with Advantage Investigations, we're a private investigating company that provides services across the nation, such as surveillance, unmanned surveillance, internet research, background checks, special investigations, and much more. Advantage is very results-driven, which is why data accuracy is so important to us. This not only applies to our investigation-related KPIs for our clients, but also for our HR-related metrics. Our employees work around the clock to conduct investigations and do not have set office hours like most companies do. Having the means to monitor live time data, such as employee hours, is crucial for our business.
Very, very cool. Yeah. So what we're going to do today, we're going to sort of walk through and set up the challenge that Dan has tackled. He's going to show us the very cool things he's built and all the work that went on behind the scenes from him to get that data connected, get it ready, and solve those problems. Because I'm sure as anyone who works in data knows, there's a lot of things that need to be built and fixed on the back end to produce really beautiful dashboards and insights that you report to CXOs and such. So yeah, that's the plan for today. Thanks for joining the session again. Let's get right into it. Dan, so you had a really tricky data source that you were trying to work with in Power BI. I know you were running into challenges there. Talk to me more about, what you were running into and seeing and why you realized you had a challenge to be solved here.
Yeah, definitely. So our main focus was trying to get ADP integrated into Power BI. And integration from multiple different data sources into Power BI was seamless for the most of our data. But ADP provided some special challenges, including employee time cards, for example, just because of our specific business needs. As mentioned, our data was especially complicated because investigations have odd and flexible hours, especially for our on-the-ground surveillance investigators. Critical HR data was hard to integrate and analyze within Power BI. Our business could not fully leverage Power BI for HR analytics, creating gaps in monitoring and decision-making. The lack of access to these key HR metrics prevented comprehensive analysis of potential issues like possibly time card input errors or time card fraud, employee turnover rate, pay discrepancies, or even forecasting staffing needs.
Yeah, totally made sense. You have, employees working all sorts of hours, sort of investigating these things all over the country. Even at that scale, these are really hairy data challenges. So how'd you go about, looking for a solution and sort of figuring out what the requirements are and what you would need to kind of solve this?
Yeah, Power BI, or I'm sorry, ADP had a very good reporting system. We used that for many years, and the problem was it just created a lot of manual effort. And I'm all for automation. So ADP didn't have a great connectivity service. So we explored several API solutions to pull ADP data into Power BI. We were aiming for some real-time integration with our dashboards. If you don't know much about APIs, they act as a middleman between two different softwares and allow code-based extraction. They can be very difficult to maintain and very complicated to set up initially. And good example that I like to use is, let's pretend that we're a restaurant. An ADP could be the kitchen or the back end of the restaurant, while Power BI might be the dining area. The waiter acts as the API. They act as the communication channel and the connection between the kitchen and the front of the restaurant. So that's how it works. Maybe the waiter or the API will take a request from Power BI, bring it into ADP. ADP will get the food ready and the data ready, send it right back to the Power BI and the person in the front of the restaurant. Um, so that's where CData's Connect Cloud came in. They provided an easy to use API solution, and that directly connected ADP into Power BI without any manual data movement, and provided live time access for all of our HR related data. Real time data connectivity and automation capabilities made it an ideal fit.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, these HR, obviously people's hours are updating every hour and every day, so you can't, deal with weekly batch exports either. And you're sort of a one-man band, right, Dan? So,
That's correct.
coding up all these API solutions would have been kind of infeasible for you.
Yes, that's correct. I'm a one man band, as you said. We're hoping to grow eventually, but it's a lot to take on individually.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a theme throughout this. I think like seeing people and the things they're able to do with the right tools is really inspiring, and seeing those solutions. And I think usually these custom built API solutions and things like that can be really difficult to get going and expensive to maintain over time as well. So people look for sort of SaaS solutions for that.
Yeah.
Um, Awesome. So, let's jump into what you've actually done here with CData and what you've been able to build because of that. So, talk me through, the solution that we've got set up for you and how you've been able to handle those tricky objects in ADP and now get them connected up to Power BI where you wanted.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, everything you just said was exactly correct. I mean, Connect Cloud made it easy to make the connection into ADP. CData offered a ton of support to help establish this connection, and even help support if you just don't really know the platform and just need to get comfortable with how to use it. So they're very responsive. Um, Once we solved the connection issue into ADP, custom data objects could be configured with Connect Cloud by selecting the fields and attributes that we wanted to add, and then linking that data into Power BI. Selecting and pulling the desired fields from Connect Cloud was established via SQL queries. And if you're not familiar with SQL or how to use it, no worries, because CData has thought ahead, and they offer query builders and an AI generator to help pull that desired data. So now that those connections are fully automated and they update in real time, so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time to manage them.
Yeah, totally makes
So
sense.
yeah, go ahead, Billy.
No, I was just saying that makes sense and really cool to see how you're using that. So, yeah, let's jump right into what you've created.
Yeah. I brought a couple of examples that I built. So this is just a small portion of some of the HR analytics that I've integrated. So in this example, we can see some of the problem areas of where the overtime cost is. And just you can see right up front exactly where the problem is and where we may need to hire additional heads. So it's completely interactive. You can filter things such as the certain departments, states, date ranges, a specific manager, everything you need to, and it's completely interactive, and it gives actionable insights on, like I said, where to maybe hire additional heads just based off of overtime. Um, with 100 plus headcount, and with the data changing every hour for payroll, there's a lot of data being pulled, and we're able to still see our employees' hours in real time due to this Connect Cloud. In the
Yeah.
next example, it's. Oh, go ahead, Billy.
Let's sit on that one for a minute.
Yeah.
This dashboard you built. I think it's interesting as well. 500 employees is nothing to sort of sneeze at. That's really data at scale, especially each of them has their own time cards and hours and such. And you guys found that this was a better solution for that much data, rather than sort of manual reporting, sending over spreadsheets and stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah. Before, if we wanted to see this type of data, we would have to pull it directly from ADP, run our calculations and formulas, then look at the outcomes. And it's a lot of manual effort. And it takes time to actually see the data. I have to get the request, do all the manual work, and then return the output. Here, everyone can see, what the data is, however they want to see it, depending on what they're looking for. Um, and like I said, this is a small portion of it. Like there's other dashboards and other tabs within the report where you can dive further into the exact data that you're looking for.
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's something a lot of people can commiserate. These manual things, they suck up a lot of time. You're doing, similar things week to week. Having this dashboard, even, at this scale of data is really, really beneficial. I think often we hear like, oh, we're not a big enough company. We don't have enough data to build these dashboards. But, they're valuable, at almost any level of scale, and being able to deliver this. So who's digesting this? You mentioned CXOs, executive level. Who's kind of reading this report, and how beneficial is it to have this sort of really visual, really nice report for them to see, instead of sending over tables and charts and more manual polls?
Yeah. So I mean, this specific report, it's very helpful for the HR department, our recruiters, our managers, finance department, everything, because it tells you exactly what areas you're paying more in, where you need more people, how overworked certain people are in a certain area. It tells a huge story just in this one tab. But the HR related metrics are important to everyone in the company. I mean, you take a manager, they want to know, where their people are, who's the closest person to a certain case. Now we have a certain their actual home address. They can pull in exactly where the case is, figure out who the closest person is. Finance department can see, different pay codes and see, what is the cost of training. Now we can see that in live time for a certain date range. It's 100% interactive.
Absolutely. I think you hit on it there, right? It's the story that's coming from the data. I think like that's really the beautiful thing here of being able to hook up your data into these dashboards is you're taking these numbers and this data rolling in, and you're telling a story about real people, how they're working and all that, and really affecting people decision making, from the people reading these reports and what they do on the day to day because they have these insights, right?
That's correct. 100% correct. So it's
Yeah,
very important for all departments to be able to see this data in real time.
yeah, that's awesome to see. No, thank you for diving more into that. If you want to jump to the next dashboard, I'm sure we'd love to see some more.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is just a extension of what we were just talking about. So in this tab, we are able to see more of the detail at the day level, at the hour level, everything, for each individual that works for us. So in this specific screenshot, is ticking mid pay period a couple weeks ago, but it's looking at the current pay period, and we can filter a specific day. We can filter by the week total, the total pay period amount of hours, and just see, who had the most hours, who had the least amount of hours. Where can we advance? What did those hours make up of? Were they regular time? Were they overtime? Was it report writing, paid time off? What in that week or that day made up that time period? Um, so it's very interactive, and it alerts to any even suspicious looking timesheets or submissions. Managers are able to manually review and catch the input errors and maybe some time gouging. So it's just a very interactive live time view, easy to look into, and it's right there at your fingertips, and it's perfect and an ideal fit for us. just because there is so many moving parts and having to dive into a certain person's hours and can be challenging. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so just like the other tab, we have a bunch of different filters where you can filter a specific name. If I'm a manager and I want to see my employees, I look at my own name, and it just shows me all of my employees' hours for that time pay period. So these dashboards and data integration via CData's Connect Cloud have already saved our company thousands of dollars within the last couple of months. And even more importantly, they save myself, the HR department, our finance department, countless hours a week from manually running these reports and finding these kinds of trends and statistics and inconsistencies.
Yeah, really cool, Dan. I think one theme we're going to be seeing a lot through all of these tracks today in the BI and analytics uh, track is that, you know, about 20% is actually building the dashboard, actually putting it together in Power BI. And about 80% is all the work it takes into cleaning that data up, getting it in there, connecting it right. Talking more through that process on the back end and what it takes to deliver these, really powerful and cool drop down filters and all that good stuff in the end result. What does it take to get there and have the data prepped in the right way so that you can actually do that in the dashboard that stakeholders consume.
Yeah, definitely. As far as what the data looks like when you link it into Power BI, it comes over in a JSON format. But thankfully, Power BI has a easy tool where you just have it read the JSON format and build its own columns and own table based off of that. So it's very easy to use. But as you mentioned, data accuracy is critical. If it's not accurate, that can skew your data and make it wonky. So definitely making sure that you have the accuracy and live data. So we had zero issues with that. CData really brought over the accurate data directly from ADP. And any data inaccuracies were on our end and not through the API or through ADP. So it was very helpful, and it's very easy to do once you bring it into Power BI. You just have to manipulate it, test it, try to work through the data and get it in the format that you want it to.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Dan. I'm glad you could sort of pull back the curtain and let us see, what it takes to get here. And really glad to hear how CData is helping you with that, because that's sort of the ugly part of BI and analytics that people don't like to talk about is, prepping, cleaning, data quality, all of that it takes to make these incredible dashboards that are, really useful and beautiful. Speaking of that, we're going to get to Q&A in just a minute here. So make sure to drop your questions in the Q&A if you have any. Just to bring us home, Dan, talk to me about, now that you have this, now that you've built this and it's sort of in play at Advantage Investigations, what has that created and how have things changed as a result of that impact from these awesome dashboards that you've built?
Yeah, I mean, the HR department absolutely love this. They can now see all of the company's data and hours and pay and everything that's HR related metrics, turnover rate. It's all in one place. They don't have to try and find it within ADP. It makes their life a million times easier. And I've heard day in and day out how much they love these new dashboards and integration. Um, Providing real-time insights into payroll accuracy, employee trends, workforce behavior. It's all in the same dashboard, and it just saves everybody so much time and pain of trying to figure out all of that data by itself. So it improved, a lot of decision making and enabled immediate detection of anomalies like the time card discrepancies, which we hit on a lot during this session. But maybe some workforce attrition. Is there a certain area where we're losing a lot of people? It's all right there. They can see it clear as day. Um, but ultimately, this enabled 5 times faster time card approval process for improved employee satisfaction. Our new data connection capabilities meant that we can look at more projects to streamline and improve our decision making and operations based on the actual data. We definitely are going to expand beyond just ADP. But this was the problem data source, and so we definitely wanted to start with this, and I could not be happier.
Awesome. Really great to hear, Dan. That's what this whole conference is about, right? Sort of setting that foundation of these data tools and strategies and approaches so that you can scale and build into the future. And especially as AI, changes the way we look at and work with data. Thank you all so much for joining us in this session. Thank you, Dan, for telling us this great story. We have a few minutes here for Q&A before we jump to a break in between sessions. So let's go ahead and jump into whatever questions we have from the audience. Thanks for the engagement and all the messages. Um, and yeah, I already see one here. So, Dan, this question's about sort of filtering and picking the right data you want from ADP. I know you can export everything and every, attribute, every record, every column, and just get this big jumbled mess of data. So, how are you enabled to sort of filter out, build the queries you actually want, and connect up that data into Power BI better?
Yeah, I mean, within ADP, you have certain API commands that you can pull, but you really don't know what you're pulling, what fields you're getting, what the data is going to look like. You just have to kind of look and see what it's going to come out with. But within CData, when you actually pull a table or a command, it before you even run anything, it tells you what kind of data you're going to be getting, what columns are going to be returning, what you need in order to return the desired output. Do you need to input a specific employee ID or manager ID, things like that. So it definitely makes it a lot easier to try and pull this desired information through the API.
Totally made sense. And I know a lot of folks are comfortable with SQL and use that. But I know as well in the keynote, we were talking too about, we have this AI SQL generator, Internet Cloud. We found a lot of users are using that, where you can sort of use natural language to get those queries and then talk to your data and get the data you want, instead of messing around with, debugging SQL queries. So that's really cool to hear you're using that. Really cool to see the end result of what that enables. These really powerful, useful dashboards that change how a company operates and changes how they treat employees, which really, really matters at the end of the day. So
Absolutely.
yeah, really cool. Any last words, advice, thoughts from you, Dan?
Honestly, I'm excited to dive deeper into what CData has to offer. We're pretty new at this, but we are already very happy with it. I know you offer over 100 different types of connections, so we're definitely going to be utilizing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to hear. Always love to hear that from our customers. Dan, thank you very much. Everyone, thank you for joining this session.